So we're finally on issue 10 of Absolute Batman. We have finally caught up, and man is Bruce in a world of trouble. While breaking into Ark M to save his friend Waylon Jones, he finds something even darker, even grander than he could have possibly imagined. He found the true Ark M, 100 meters under the actual facility. And while snooping around, he ran into Absolute Bane, completely outmatched, completely destroyed. He has now been captured and prepped for surgery. Completely robbed of his gear, stripped naked, and taken to this unknown facility where everyone gets tested on and deformed, and Batman has no way to defend himself outside of his mind and his skills. And for the most part, that's enough. But this time, it just might not be. So let's see if Batman can actually break out of this terrifying facility. And we learn at the beginning of the comic that Batman has been gone for a few days, as his mother Martha is very worried. And yo, we learn some crazy stuff here in this part of the comic, as we have this mysterious doctor giving her log on what's going on with Bruce and his capture. As she says, sedated male presented at 6'9", 421 pounds. My god, I did not know Absolute Batman was that big. 6 staff were required to carry him in, 1 back injury incurred. Removal of his costume triggered a series of homemade booby traps, numerous injuries incurred. And it's crazy that it wasn't just the costume that had different booby traps, as she says, once fully stripped, scans showed further contraband hidden throughout his body. So he has planted all kinds of things in his actual flesh, and after multiple surgeries, staff is now confident all objects have been extracted. And we see just how primitive this version of Batman is, as a lot of his things are just daggers and pellets. Tear gas pellets, acid pellets, explosive pellets, sedative pellets, hallucinogenic pellets, a full lockpick kit, blow darts, finger blades, knuckle blades, toe blades, push blades, trench daggers, various throwing shuriken, and 1 large spiked war club. So although he's still Batman, very suited and booted with things all over his suit, booby traps so you can't remove it, a lot of it's just stabs and pellets, which I do find pretty funny. But they have completely stripped Bruce of everything he has and kept him under sedation, as he's meant to be asleep for 2 whole days. But like I said before, he is still Batman, and he does have one more thing implanted in his skin, something they weren't able to find. A lockpick in the roof of his mouth, and after pulling it out with a little bit of blood, he's able to pick the lock, and he's still able to escape. And as he's on the run, we see the doctor's log begin again, as she realizes he has escaped, and they are tracking his movements, and we can kind of see some of the things they've been getting up to, the terrible things they've been doing to people. And as she tracks his movements to the clay biome, we get our first disgusting look at Absolute Clayface, and it is nightmare fuel. Gone are the days where Clayface was a man turned into a clay-like monster that can transform into anything with no true body. Now, in the Absolute universe, it is an amalgamation of people, flesh crying out in pain, moving and forming around Bruce, telling him how much it hurts. Teeth and skin combine into some amorphous blob, and as Bruce is trying to fight them all off, Absolute Bane shows up and knocks him unconscious again, as he tells him, please, keep trying. Bane doesn't want Bruce to give up on trying to escape, but for now he has been recaptured, and we now see what Absolute Clayface looks like. And while Bruce is unconscious, we get a flashback of just how hard he trained Waylon for his upcoming fight against the champ Bibbo. And we see just how strong and big and fast this champion actually was, which is why we see Bruce pushing Waylon far beyond his limit, as it's gonna be a pretty big fight. But this lighthearted flashback is interrupted by more bad news, as now it's been over a month since Bruce has been captured, and his mother is far beyond worried, talking to Harvey, trying to figure out where the hell her son is. And we see now Bruce has grown some facial hair, and the doctor's log begins again. After 45 days, Bruce is now docile, less combative, not even really moving. He also stopped eating, so they had to inject a feeding tube into his stomach. But they truly feel after over a month of punishment, he has completely become submissive, as we see a look of defiance in Bruce's eyes, as this doctor clearly doesn't understand what it truly means to be Batman, as she updates her log. Staff diagnosis may have been premature. It now seems likely that Subject 27's docility was performative, an act so he could prepare for another aggression, and my god, did he prepare. This was all so well planned and executed. Data suggests he extracted a number of his own teeth, a mix of incisors and premolars, to use for manual combat. You know, Absolute Batman's gotta stab somebody. And while we see one of the doctors saying, just hear me out, Bruce is hearing nothing out. They've been torturing him for a month. As the law continues, the subject also managed to adjust his feeding tube to gain access to his own raw stomach acid, which we see him squirt on the dude's face, burning it. He was at least nice enough to dunk the dude's face in the toilet so he didn't burn his face completely off. And the law continues with something even more impressive. Perhaps most impressive was what he did with his latrine. After collecting a large amount of poop inside and then urinating on it for weeks, Subject 27 was able to create a highly flammable compound not unlike gunpowder, which he then used to explode the wall of his cell and once again escape. And as we see him running away, this little egg that we ran past earlier in the comic is now cracked open, and whatever that is probably yet another villain from Batman's Rogues Gallery. But it does look like something else has either hatched and escaped, or hatched and is now somewhere in its own cell. And as Bruce is screaming out at no one, telling them to all go to hell, he's continuing to throw down these little explosives to obscure his tracks, and now once again the staff has lost Bruce Wayne. But let's see if he's actually able to escape this place or if he runs into another terrifying version of one of the villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery. And as we see Bruce walking into some trees, we see the doctor update her log again. Update: new reports imply he might have gone north towards the Isley ecosystem, so now we're about to get our introduction to absolute poison ivy, and once again, it is nightmare fuel. Gone are the days where we see sexy ass Pamela Isley with her green skin, the occasional leaves strewn all over her body. Now we've got this terrifying plant monster telling Bruce that the green wants out, and I am curious if they're talking about the green, the connection of all plant life, or if that's just what Poison Ivy is calling herself. But as she then attacks Bruce, almost popping his eyeball out and jumping right down his throat, which looks crazy enough, unfortunately, Bane shows up again and saves Bruce, if that's really what you can call it, as he once again beats him into submission and captures him, and begs him not to give up. So Bruce is once again recaptured, and now we have our look at absolute Poison Ivy. And with him being unconscious yet again, we get another flashback, this time of him and Selina, as she goes out preparing to steal something and she's telling him to come along, but he's too busy looking at more tape about this champion Bibbo, trying to make sure Waylon has a chance of beating him. But Selina tells him it's time for him to finally break the news to Waylon, that he doesn't actually stand a chance. It seems pretty obvious, but with Bruce being his best friend, he can't do that to Waylon. He can't hurt him like that. Selina tells him it's not really being a friend if you're marching him to his own death. So after they steal these items, he should go tell his friend. And I kinda like that this Bruce and Selina relationship is that he was stealing things with her. I mean, in the OG universe, Batman has always been pretty lax when it comes to Selina's thievery, so it's not like he's stealing with her, but he never really tries that hard to stop her either. So I like that they kind of pushed it further here, and he was actually just a thief with her. And now we're in some pretty deep waters. It has been 3 months of torture and beatings and surgeries, and Bruce is still captured as his mother is still looking for him, and he looks completely different. They've tested all inside his body, grafted all kinds of things to him, and planted things inside him. He looks completely different, and they truly believe now they've broken Batman. And for once, they may actually be correct, as they want to test him one more time. They want to see if all their excitement is actually worth it, as they leave his suit and gear inside the cell with him, and as he looks at it, he's done. He says, "There's no way to win, leave me alone, I give." They really have broken him. But we get this cool ass scene where the way the suit is positioned, it looks like it's looking right at him, like it's speaking to him, calling to him, telling him to get the hell up, put the suit on and get out of there. It is not over. You are Batman. And as he looks back at the suit, nothing needs to be said. He's suited and he breaks out. The Batman has returned, and let's see if he can finally escape this hell. And while he's running through the corridors, we see the doctors just sitting there taking notes. They're pretty lax about his escape, as we run into more test subjects that look completely grotesque. Honestly, Ark M, this entire place reminds me of the book All Tomorrows, where an alien race comes to Earth and they turn humans into all kinds of different creatures, as they're really good at bioengineering just anything. They're these godlike creatures, and that's exactly what it looks like these doctors are doing to these people of Gotham. They've turned them all into just things, and with them still seeming to have their human consciousness, they are miserable, in pain, and begging Batman to end it all, begging Batman to help them. And as he tells them he just doesn't know how to do that, 800-pound Bane sneaks up on him again, as we now have the confirmed weight of Batman, 421 pounds, and Bane seems to be at least twice his size, and now this time Bane is actually using the Venom to beat Batman down. He is way too big to keep sneaking up on him, but either way, Batman's getting stomped and crushed and thrown through everything, as the doctor is already logging saying that they've captured Batman, ready to get the infirmary ready. They have no doubt Batman will once again lose, but remember guys, this is the final test. He cannot get captured again. He was already at his breaking point before. If he's captured again, that's it. Batman will completely give up. But we see Bane throw him into the glass where something hatched. A giant lizard creature attacks Bane, beats the hell out of him, smacks him into all the other doctors, immediately crushing them because Bane is humongous, and as they try to escape, it opens its impossibly giant mouth and eats them too. And Bruce is able to correctly guess that his friend Waylon Croc Jones has been turned into this Killer Croc creature, as we now have our introduction to Absolute Killer Croc. Far more animalistic than the OG version, and as he gets right up in Killer Croc's face trying to see if his friend can actually recognize him, he gets grabbed by the throat as we see a flashback of Bruce telling Waylon, "Of course you can beat Bibbo, you're Waylon Croc Jones." So we see he decided not to take Selina's advice and continue to push his friend towards greatness, as he tells Waylon, "Let's get the fuck back in the ring." And we see a determined Batman on the back of Killer Croc, as it looks like he can recognize Batman as Bruce, his longtime best friend, and they're both ready to get the hell out of here. And it's just heartbreaking seeing this. It's cool, but damn, this used to be Waylon, his really cool friend, and now he's just this. And as Bane gets up, completely unfazed by the attack he just endured, he continues his quote as Batman tells him his own quote, "Shove it up your ass, that's Batman, circa now," as we see Killer Croc screech and they run off into the sewers. And we see Dr. Ark M finally leave her office asking Bane if he's excited for the final phase. And he is, as he tells her he's finally ready to truly break the Batman. And I think the scariest part of this whole Ark M arc, at least so far, is that they're never worried. Doctors die, they don't seem to really care. Bruce escapes multiple times, they didn't break a sweat. He escapes with Killer Croc after attacking Bane, which I'm assuming is their most powerful asset, and they still don't seem to mind. They're just more excited about Bruce. The fact that they seem to always be in control is what's so scary because they're doing terrible things down here. The people of Gotham have suffered in Ark M, and so has Bruce, as he's gotten a little taste of what everyone else has gone through. And it looks like with the green tubes they put all in his body that they were trying to make him another Bane. Either way, this story was heartbreaking in a lot of ways, but also very, very good. I enjoyed issue number 10 and we're finally caught up, so now I will try my best to catch up on Absolute Wonder Woman. And if I had to guess what's next for Bruce and Waylon, odds are they're gonna go through the sewers and end up in Gotham, and Waylon is not going to return with Bruce. As obviously, I mean, look at him. At least OG Killer Croc was more humanoid, while this one is just a complete monster. I don't even know if he'd be able to communicate because of how giant and long his mouth is. So odds are he'll stay in the sewers and just suffer down there, and this was honestly just really sad. But I hope you guys enjoyed the issue, and I will catch you on the next one.